Good evening, everyone. So, welcome to the live session number 11 for the course Effective Computing. And in this session, we are going to discuss the week 11's content, which is the emotional virtual personal assistance and ethics in EVAs. So, this session is also going to be problem solving and discussion kind of session. So, let's jump onto the questions. Question 1 is one potential applications of using an agent in customer service is to provide a more personalized and empathetic experience to customers by recognizing their emotions during interactions. True or false? So I highly recommend that you pause for a while after every question and try to answer the question yourself, then move ahead with the discussion part. So, yeah, so let's talk about effective agents in customer service. So, one of the major applications is we want the make the work of humans easier in such a situations. Let's say customer support or customer service executives, they have to cater to each and every problem or complaint individually. So in order to make it a more seamless experience and faster experience, if we use some kind of effective agents, even to assist the humans, then it will be of great help. The customer the grievances resolving time will decrease, so that is what is desired. So in order to enhance the experience, or in order to give them a better experience, the agents should not be robotic. That is the whole essence of the effective computing that we have been discussing for a while now in previous lectures as well. So the main motive is to make them more human as possible. Now it is so again, one of the key applications is to enhance the user experience by recognizing and responding to customers' emotions in real time. Now, so, let's say a person feels um, much frustrated because the query is not being resolved, the complaint is not being resolved. So, the customer might be the customer might be very frustrated now. But what if we want effective agents and we have to deal with them, and this would lead to a more human like and personalized interaction. Let's say the agent responds in a more polite way, so that we need to counter the aggression, or counter the frustration by sensing it first and then reacting accordingly. Okay, so when an agent like a chatbot or a virtual assistant, it is designed to detect emotional cues, let's say tone of the voice or text sentiment or even facial expressions if the modality is available, then typing speed or choice of words. Usually when you are frustrated, you tend to type faster. Okay, the choice of words can be harsh or polite. If you are frustrated, you might choose harsh words. So then the chatbot can sense it and respond accordingly, adjust the response style accordingly. So imagine that you're chatting with a customer service bot about a delayed flight. So if you express frustration, then let's say I'm really upset and this is the third time this has happened, you say this. And then an empathetic agent versus a non-empathetic agent, what would they might like respond with is, an empathetic agent might respond with, I'm really sorry to hear, he's like apologizing here so that you're facing this issue again, let me help you as quickly as possible. So but a non-empathetic can be like, please wait while we check your status. This has no emotions, no emotions, even no acknowledgement, no acknowledgement of the emotional state of the consumer. So, of course, you would like to interact with one having this response over the second one, right? So, it makes you feel heard because it is acknowledging the fact that you're facing the issue again. Now, this empathetic version makes user feel heard and valued, which is vital in customer satisfaction and retention. So, this is a correct statement. Okay. So, next question is, which of the following challenges are the challenges faced by emotional virtual personal assistants? So, emotional virtual personal assistants, what does it mean? Is EVA is, let's say, you have Alexa or you have Siri or you have these kind of virtual agents in your home, let's say, and it is assisting you with so many tasks. So, but there is another factor which is emotional. It should be able to understand. So, what are the challenges involved? Ensuring the accuracy of the emotion prediction, facilitating the real time emotion prediction, both A and B, or none of the above. So, there are, of course, some challenges faced by these emotional VPAs because let's say there are certain VPAs like Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, even more advanced, specifically designed for effective purposes. And their aim is to recognize, interpret, and respond accordingly to the human emotions. This is a core component of effective computing. Of course, we want to focus on that, and it is very crucial for building empathetic or human like digital assistants. When you're talking to Siri or when you're talking to Alexa, it should feel like you have a companion. You're talking to someone who acknowledges your, like, who is like a friend to you, right? So, emotion prediction, it involves interpreting complex, ambiguous signals like voice tone, text, sentiment, or facial expressions. So, it is not that easy. It's not, you cannot specify some rules that, let's say, the if this is being followed, then the emotion is happy. Emotions, as we have discussed this many times, that emotions are much more complex and they do not have any objective definition. um, for one person happiness can mean differently, and for another person the the meaning of happiness might be different. So it can be also, human emotions can be subtle. Not everyone is very loud about the feelings, and of course it can lead to misinterpretations. Also, there can be cultural, linguistic, and individual differences, and then it can make the accurate emotion recognition even harder. Ensuring the accuracy is a big challenge. Also, to feel natural, virtual assistants need to process emotional cues and respond immediately. That is a real time. That is the main challenge. You know, even if you have developed certain algorithms which are very um, accurate, but it is unable to respond in a way that you cannot just ask a question to Alexa and wait for 15 minutes for the answer. It should be very quick. So it should have low latency. It should be the efficient use of sensors and models. Then it should be having fast inference speed from the ML or DL models and real time prediction, because the MLDL models are quite heavy generally, so it becomes very difficult because of the computational complexity, especially when we are dealing with low resource devices such as smartphones or smartwatches or so. So real time processing is also a critical challenge. So both A and B would be the correct answer. Ensuring the accuracy, it is very important and it is a challenge. And the second point is facilitating real time emotion. That is also a challenge. So the correct answer is both A and B. Then virtual assistants may be biased towards training data, which may potentially lead to the unfair treatment of certain groups. True or false? So when we talk about bias means there is some kind of preconceived notion in your mind. You let's say you are more you will favor your friend more than a stranger, right? So you will always be biased towards your friend more than anyone. Let's say you have to you're given a choice, and then you have to choose one person, you will always go with the person that you know. So that is some sort of a bias. And same in context of deep learning models or ML models. These models are essentially based on the quality of data that you're providing. So whatever you will there's a saying, whatever you sow, so shall you reap. So that means whatever you are putting inside a system, that is how it is going to learn. The basics will be based on that data that you use for the training purposes, and that is how your model is going to perform. But uh, when we talk about biases in this biases in the uh, deep learning scenario. So let's say you have some sort of emotion recognition system that you're training, and then you're using pictures of or audios from, let's say, sound. We're just dealing with the sound modality now. So if you train the model using American accent English, then it might not work well when it comes to British English or Indian English, because the model knows the characteristics of American English so well, but it cannot generalize to other data because the data was already biased towards a certain ethnicity, certain accent. Similarly, in other modalities also, let's say you design a facial emotion recognition system which has all the images from white people and there are no people of color involved. Whenever the system is used to detect emotions in case of people or in case of dark skinned people, then the model won't be able to perform well because it has not seen that kind of data. So can lead biases in training data can lead to unintended and unfair behavior. It is not intentional. Sometimes we cannot, let's say I'm in India right now, and I would, if I would be collecting data, then I my accessibility is confined to a certain color of people only, so I cannot uh, collect data with very, let's say, extreme dark skinned people or uh, extremely fair people, because in India mostly people are brown skinned, right? So I would be able to collect that kind of data. So it's not intentional, like somebody is deliberately taking only certain kind of data, but it definitely leads to unfair or unintended behaviors into the system. It introduces those. So whatever you are like using, the data is the main culprit here. So let's just read these points one by one. How bias will impact the VPA. VPA means virtual personal assistant. Example, Siri or Alexa. So training data reflects human biases. If the data contains social, cultural, racial, or gender stereotypes, let's say only male dominated data is there, then the model won't be able to generalize on female data, and AI can learn and replicate them. And let's say if a dataset over represents certain accents, dialects, or expressions from one demographic, as I mentioned, let's say American English only, and it does not cater to the British English accents, so the maybe Alexa won't be able to understand the British accent. So assistant may struggle to understand, and it may respond poorly. Second is emotion recognition bias. Emotion models are trained predominantly on data from one group, let's say again Western facial expressions, but in context of Indian context, so the definition of happiness or the expression of happiness might be different. We might be more subtle in terms of smiling or so, than the people from the West, or even vice versa. Just an example. So the model can misinterpret. Let's say we usually tilt our heads like this, but it does not mean in any other context. It is very India specific thing. So the model won't be able to understand it. Unfair treatment or accessibility issues. Some users may receive less accurate, less helpful, or even inappropriate responses. Let's say some people of color are using, then it can cause dissatisfaction, exclusion, or discriminatory effects. So example is, again, I already mentioned this example. So an user with Indian or African accent may find it very difficult to get the assistant to recognize the commands correctly. So this is an example of accent bias. Or maybe if facial expressions are concerned, so maybe underrepresented ethnic groups, let's say dark skinned people, they can get incorrect responses. So virtual assistants, definitely they can be biased. Everything depends on data. So everything ultimately depends on the data. That is why data is the most crucial part. Ensuring the data quality is very, very important. Next question is, which of the following is an ethical concern which is not associated with virtual assistants? Privacy concerns, emotional manipulation, bias and discrimination, or none of the above? So there are certain ethical issues. One was like bias and everything. So but here let's go through this one by one. Privacy, emotional manipulation, and bias or discrimination, they all are they all are the issues which are associated with these emotional VPAs. How? Number one is the privacy concern. Let's say you're talking about Alexa. So you have Alexa at your home, and whenever you are calling, Alexa, play this song. So have you ever thought, like, is it listening to you the whole time? But let's say, how does it recognize that you just called her Alexa? Is it constantly listening to your conversation? So it might definitely be listening, because it is kind of waiting for that keyword, for that trigger. Whenever you will, so it will keep listening to your conversation, but as soon as you say Alexa, then it will spot the keyword and then it will respond. Otherwise it won't do anything, but still it is recording your conversations. So they want, since it is looking for that particular keyword, it is constantly listening to your voice commands. And it can record private conversation as well, and mostly if the data is like, if let's say Alexa is still handled by Amazon, so it is a trustworthy thing. But let's say there's some brand which is not trustworthy, or smart speakers, or they can accidentally record and even send private conversations to some other entity. And there can be security risks or user consent issues involved, so privacy is a major concern. Second point is emotional manipulation. Very interesting point. Um, Now we are talking always that we want to make the assistance as emotional as possible. Let's say it is responding in an emotional way. Let's say you are not feeling good, and you're talking to Alexa or any robot which is emotionally intelligent. So you tell them that, you know what, I did not have a good day at work today and I need to relax. So let's say the agent tells you to buy some new game which is launched. So it is telling you to, hey, you should buy this game, it is very nice and it might help you. So you will be convinced also. If it is behaving in like more of a friendly way or emotional way, then it can convince you somehow to buy that product. And this emotional manipulation, like let's say there is some kind of tie up with that company. There is some kind of tie up with that company, that game company, that whenever a user is in this situation, you somehow have to recommend our product. So the agent is doing that, but the person who is interacting, like, I don't know that there is a tie up or it is a business idea that it is responding. So I will feel like convinced, I will be convinced that I should buy this game, maybe it will help me out. So it is putting thoughts in my head. So it can ultimately detect and respond to human emotions, we know, right? But then what is the ethical issue? When systems can exploit emotional states to influence behavior, the real influencers can be the agents without even we are knowing. At least the influencers on Instagram have a paid promotion tag, but but not these agents. So, such as encouraging purchases when someone is stressed or sad. So let's say a shopping assistant recommending comfort items when sensing users sadness. So this is emotional manipulation, and it is like unethical that you're exploiting the emotional state and then you're pitching in your business part. Then comes bias and discrimination. So, bias and discrimination, we just discussed that due to the bad nature of data, in the sense that the data is not generalized, or data is catering to only a specific audience or specific group, ethnic group. So your model will only be good at uh, responding to those certain accents or skin tone, or so and so. So, bias in training data may lead to unequal treatment of users from different demographics. What is the point of having a system which only works good for American people and it is not working well for Indian or British or maybe Middle Eastern people? Because if you're launching a product for everyone, then it should include or cater to everyone's uh, necessities. So the systems might fail to recognize accents, misclassify emotions, or respond differently based on gender, race, or culture. Let's say a facial emotion recognition tool misclassifying expressions of people from minority ethnic groups. So the question asked, which is not associated, privacy concerns are definitely associated, emotional manipulation is also there, and bias and discrimination. So all of them are ethical concerns. So D is the correct answer. Next question is, emotional virtual assistants may be designed to appear if they have emotions, but in reality they're just algorithms, which is true, because ultimately we are dealing with machines and machines cannot have emotions. So, emotional virtual agents like chatbots or virtual assistants or avatars are often designed to simulate emotions. Simulation means to mimic the emotions, but they do not truly feel emotions. Everything is rule based. Ultimately, rule based maybe directly rules, like if this is happening or then do this, or maybe some kind of abstract rules which are not well defined, but deep learning models ultimately they develop some kind of abstract rules, right? So they're programmed with algorithms that can recognize user inputs like text or speech or facial expressions and respond in ways that mimic the emotional behavior. So they might come up with a friendly tone, emotionally charged phrase, let's say, I'm sorry to hear that. This is more relatable than the facial expressions or gestures. But we have to understand that it is not a human being, so it is not actually experiencing an emotion. It is just simply processing the data and choosing responses based on predefined rules, machine learning models, or probability. Okay, the goal is to make more natural, empathetic, and effective for the users, and not to endow system with real feel. So basically, how we cannot even do that. It's like they don't have brain. So virtual assistant may say that sounds frustrating. Let me help you with that. But in reality, it is just matching your input. Like whatever you responded with, it is just sensing it and responding in a predefined emotional response. So it does not actually understand you. Okay, the process of transferring emotions to robots is non-trivial because robots do not express emotions in same manner as humans. Non-trivial means not easy, matlab not simple, you can say. Trivial means it's a simple problem and non-trivial means not a simple problem. So if we want to talk about emotions in robots, then the process is indeed a non-trivial, that is not simple. Robots lack biological emotions because they are ultimately machines, they're not human beings. And then they can express the emotions, but then they cannot feel it. They cannot have emotional states or biological responses like heart rate changes or hormonal. Like, this is what causes emotions. Human emotion is complex and context dependent, whereas the robots only follow the predefined rules. So it is very difficult because in every situation might be very different, like complex situation, not everything can be solved using some rules. So it is definitely challenging, and expressing emotions is very hard for robots, and they are highly sensitive to humans are highly sensitive to subtle cues. Even slight unnaturalness in the robots may make us uncomfortable, can feel awkward or fake, like, which is the uncanny valley effect that we already discussed. A robot might detect sadness and I'm sorry you're feeling down, I'm here to help. However, uh, let's say it is delivered with natural tone, like somebody is actually talking to you in a comforting tone. This phrase might not hit well. So it can otherwise feel robotic or emotionally flat. So it is non-trivial process, and it is very very complex to make robots understand and express the emotions in the same way that the humans do. Copy pasting human expressions onto robots guarantees seamless translation of emotions, which is false, because again there are some challenges related to emotional robots. It does not guarantee, like, let's say I'm smiling and then you say if I put this a smile on a robot's face, then the problem is solved. No, it won't be solved actually. It might appear more sorry, it might appear more relatable on the surface, but there are several challenges from this being fully effective. Lack of authentic emotional state. Robots do not feel emotion, so mimicking may seem mechanical or a hollow, like it is just on the surface level. Of course, no, it is not understanding, it is just rule based. Without underlying context or emotion, even misinterpretations may be there, or even lack appropriate timing or intensity. The uncanny valley effect, which is basically if you make a robot look exactly like a human being, but then since it is a robot, it cannot smile like a human can do. So ultimately, you will be able to spot the difference, and it will make you uncomfortable. This is the uncanny valley effect. If a robot's facial expressions almost, but not quite perfectly mimic humans, it can create a sense of unease or discomfort. If there is um, a cute, like, mechanical robot which is having kind of a dog's face with two eyes and everything, so it might, you don't have any expectation that it will smile or very naturally, because ultimately you understand that this is a machine. But if you make the robot so hyper realistic, like Sophia is a very famous robot. It exactly looks like a human being, but then when it is smiling, there are some weird unnatural artifacts on the face. So you will be like, oh, this is creepy, not good. So that is called the uncanny valley effect. Something appears too human but still artificial, so it triggers a negative reaction instead of a positive one. Then contextual misunderstanding may be there. Let's say robots may display a smile when the user is sad or angry, and the algorithm misinterprets the emotional context. Let's say sarcasm. The robots are not able to understand sarcasm, so oh, that is a great thing. Actually, your friend is taunting you with something, but the robot will not be able to understand the context, and it will say thank you. So it will be giving inappropriate expressions, or it can make the interactions feel more offensive at some level. So a customer support robot that smiles constantly might do in a stressful complaint situation. which can frustrate the user further. Like, why are you smiling? Just I'm facing this much problem, because the robot is not adapting emotionally to the situation. So copy pasting is not enough. There's a lot more complexity to it, and there are so many challenges involved. So then, next question is, emotional virtual agents might lead to social isolation. Very interesting concept again, which is true or false. So, what about EVA and social isolation? How do they even relate? So, EVAs are designed to simulate emotionally intelligent behavior in interactions with human beings. So, let's say in Japan, so many elder people are there who live alone. Their children don't live with them, and there is some of them that don't even have children, so nobody is there to take care of them. So there is this culture, like the robots can live with you, and they can be your assistant, and they can be emotionally intelligent. So it's a great initiative that it offers companionship, and the person does not feel alone. But then there's a downside to it. There's a potential downside. They can contribute to social isolation. Why? Because let's say I am at my home and I have no one, and then there is a tendency of human being to go and interact with the neighbors, or maybe some of my friends, old friends, and so being in a society, it is very important for our well-being and for our development, in fact. But if you get these robots which are emotionally intelligent, aware, they are like, you are doing fine at your home, so you lose the tendency to talk to new people or go out in the society and interact. So of course, let's say you are an introvert, so this is a introvert's paradise if you get certain kind of a robot. So it will even reduce the human interaction. That is why the person might be isolated from the social world, and only the robot will be there to interact. So just to read these points out, first point is reduced human interaction. If people become too reliant on EVAs for emotional support or companionship, let's say if you are not feeling good, if you are very stressed, then you have developed the habit of venting out in front of your robot and not in front of your friend, then you are disconnected from everyone, and you have reduced the human interaction. So they may withdraw from real human relationships. This is especially true for elderly individuals or socially anxious users, which may feel like interacting with EV is much more easier than and comfortable than interacting with people. Trust issues, everything. So there is a false sense of connection. Users might emotionally feel bonded to agents that don't even genuinely understand or reciprocate the feelings. So although it is answering your questions with great emotional support, everything, but ultimately it is just rule based, and it is not a real entity. So there is an illusion of companionship. It is not exactly a companionship. It might reduce their motivation from real or emotionally reciprocal human relationships. Then dependency risks. If a person is having an anxiety, so if I'm used to talking to a machine and someday the machine is not there, I will not be able to vent out to someone else. So this is a major issue. And hi
Uh,
Aditya.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can I ask you something in this regard?
Sure.
Ma'am, as we are talking about the risks of social isolation, and we are talking how this thing can make people even more social isolated,
Yeah.
but we have also seen, like you initially took the example of Japan.
Yes.
There are actually multiple people like who haven't talked to people already, like they haven't gone out of their home for 10 years, 11 years straight.
Hmm.
So it has been seen like a lot of people are actually using this so that as a sort of try, like before now they actually go out there, like for like now they already haven't talked someone for 5 years, so it's better that they first try and practice on something like this, and once they are becoming more and more comfortable, and then
Hmm.
they actually go out, then they actually talk with people. So can this also not be seen as a part of like a therapy, instead of just like that it is going to create more social isolation in particular?
Yeah, so there are two sides of everything, right? So I'm not saying that it is just
Yeah.
causing the social isolation part, but then it is also existing. See, excess of everything is bad, and when you depend solely on the robots and these virtual agents, then it becomes a problem. Interacting with these, even these, the applications of these affective computing agents, they include this companionship, and they are made to cater to audiences such as elderly people, so that they can be taken care of emotionally, even physically. They can be like kept in frame, like they can be in case of any emergencies, these agents can contact the corresponding agencies or doctors or so. Same in the case of teens, or if they need emotional support, and let's say students, emotionally intelligent tutors. Let's say you are afraid to ask questions in your class, you're an introvert, there are applications based on that. But then what we are talking about is not just one side of the story. There exists another side of story, and this is not mandatory that it will happen, but it might lead to everything. The over dependency on anything will lead to the social isolation part. So I'm glad that you asked the question, but it is not the case that it is only leading towards this isolation. But if a person, uh, we as a society, we would like to, if the person is like alone, in Japan especially, the death rates are quite high, like the elderly people are dying, and I have heard the reports that a person was dead in their home for 10 days and nobody knew that the couple is
Yes,
dead,
ma'am.
right?
Like there, you are more likely to die by suicide than
Yes, but
anything
if you
else.
are socially interacting with, let's say you go to park every day and then you are not coming to the park for 2 days, then the person might go come to your house and then check on you. So this is a more human like relationship that we need. But these robots, it won't do anything in this case. So it is just the like, it is just isolating you further from the society. That is this case. I hope I answered
Yes,
your
ma'am. Like
question.
we are sort of causing purely for our ethical concerns and what basically what can sort of go wrong with these kind of
Yeah, exactly. It is
things.
not the case that it will definitely go wrong, but it can be a case.
Yes, like there is a certain
Yeah, always there
expectation.
is a chance. And this is, I don't think this will be happening in context of India, especially. We don't like to talk to robots that much. But there are certain cases where even robots in Japan are actually, matlab, if we talk about India, it is still a dream that we will be having robots in our home who will cook, clean. It sounds very futuristic, but Japan is already living that life. So we cannot relate to these things, but some people definitely can.
Yes, ma'am. I think in case of Japan, it also makes sense because the people like there is a labor shortage. There are less people. In India, we have ultra access of labor.
Yes, everything. And we are, I think, more social as a society as well. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, shall we move on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, dependency risks, again, it might lead to dependency, causing people to prioritize again the interaction with machine over friends or family. And mental health can also go down. Social development, actually, when we interact with people, we learn from them a lot. But robot might not teach you that much. Imagine a teenager who finds it hard to socialize at school but interacts daily with a comforting chatbot, and then the teen starts preferring chatbot over to make friends, or then becomes isolated. So the correct answer would be true. Then linear discriminative analysis is a generative algorithm which can be applied to recognize emotions. So usually we call this as LDA in machine learning lingo. um, LDA is not a generative algorithm, first of all. Anything which is generating new data points. Let's say in ML or DL, if you are slightly aware of the concepts, we design models which can discriminate. Usually, we use them for discrimination. Uh, let's say this is a picture of a cat or a dog. So, you're discriminating between two pictures or two categories. But in case of generative models, now ChatGPT is a generative model because it is generating new language, it is answering to your question. Moreover, DALI or these AI tools which can generate your portraits or new faces which are actually which are non-existent. So this is a part of this generative algorithms. While LDA is also used in ML, it is not a generative algorithm. So it is used for the dimensionality reduction maybe. So PCA, you must have heard, principal component analysis. And so there are certain algorithms when we have a lot of features and we want a subset which is the most, which is carrying the most important information. So what LDA does is it finds a linear combination of features that best separates two or more classes. So it is mostly in case of affective analysis, we can use LDA to reduce the number of features, to reduce data dimensionality, and enhance class separability before applying SVM or any kind of classifiers. Even deep learning, not in deep learning actually, we usually know in ML. So LDA can be used to project high dimensional emotional features to smaller number of smaller phase sorry smaller dimension. So let's say initially you had 2048 dimensional vector. Now since it is difficult to process and you have so many data points, so ultimately the data size is very very high. Now you want to use some kind of algorithm and it will convert it to, let's say, maybe 256 dimensional feature. And which features will be preserved? Only the important ones. Let's say I'm talking about a face and I want to see which emotion is being displayed. So let's say we are having these features: eyes, mouth, and ears. So I have three dimensions like ears, eyes, and let's say there are four actually. Hair is also there. Hair and mouth or lips. So there are four dimensions, but we know that only eyes and mouth can be helping us to determine the emotion, right? Let's say your eyes are slightly shrunken, or your lip area is also like how your lip area is looking like, it can determine, it can help you to guess the emotion. But your hair and ears have no role in emotion recognition, so you can skip these uh, features. So LDA can help us to remove, to make it to two dimensional, and it will preserve which features? These these eyes and mouth. So this is how it works. It is not generating any data, and it is not a generative algorithm, so it can be used to lower down the dimension. Why do we need to lower down the dimension? Because the more data we have, more computation is required, right? More resources are required, unnecessary computation is happening if I also include this here and here, which are of no significance. So if I already reduce the data and then I only use the important information, it will be much faster, the training will be more accurate, and there will be no noise. So it is not a generative algorithm, and it can be still applied to emotion recognition. Okay, during the pre-processing of emotional data, normalizing data from different users enables fair comparison across them. So pre-processing, normalization, these words, I hope you must be familiar with these words. Pre-processing is before feeding it to a ML or DL model, we want to make sure that the data is on the same page. Let's say, I'll give you an example. So normalization, it means that, let's say we are dealing with multi-user data sets. Let's say physiological signals, heart rate, or facial expressions. So each individual has a unique baseline. Let's say in case of males, uh, in case of males and females, some factors may be different. Like if I am neutral state, so neutral state of male can be 70, but for females it can be an average 80, right? Let's say pitch value. If we talk about the pitch value, if I am talking about the voice modality, so in case of male and female, the value might be, I'm just giving example, random number, okay? So pitch might be, let's say 50, or in case of this it might be 100. Okay, so um, but if you give absolute rules, if you make these rules, pitch value greater than 50, or greater than 70 will mean, like we know that high pitch means excited state. So you will say that any pitch value which is greater than 70 can be classified as excited state, but the female at a neutral state is having that already. So we want to bring everything to the same level, right? This cannot be compared with this, because they have different baselines. So we want to bring them to the same page by normalizing, let's say some divided by some value, to bring them between 0 to 1 range, or so many techniques are there. So without normalization it will be very difficult to train a model, and it will be very confused. Okay, so again, one person's normal heart rate might be 60, and another, usually, like we say that in case of women the BP is usually lower side than men. So which is normal, but you cannot call that every female is they're not healthy. So emotion responses also vary by person. So one person might sweat more under stress than another. So normalization helps these variations, so that they don't skew the emotional classification. So also fair comparison, we want them to bring to a comparable scale, and enabling machine learning models to treat all the users fairly, and avoiding user specific biases, which is based on gender, age, uh, ethnicity, your race, etc. So this is also true. Okay, which of the following is a challenge in developing the emotional virtual agent? Accuracy, real time processing, privacy concerns, all of the above. We've already discussed this question, so I'll just go through it very quickly. So accuracy, definitely we require good accuracy, and it is indeed a challenge, because emotions are difficult to understand. It's not that simple to classify these, and we want the system as highly accurate as possible. So accuracy is a challenge. Then the real time processing part. So real time, again, we are talking to Alexa, and let's say I call Alexa, uh, how was your day? So if it takes Alexa to respond in 10 minutes, I won't be waiting for Alexa to respond. So it is not even deployable if it is not working fast. Even 10 minutes is so much more. If it is taking 1 minute, um, it's not worth it in today's scenario. So we need to make design good systems which are lightweight and fast inference. Then privacy concerns are there, as I already give an example, Alexa or Siri for that matter. My phone currently, it might be listening even facial recognition, so we have that face unlock in your phone. So um, it might be constantly looking for your face, and let's say you have placed in your room, and the phone is placed like this, or even your laptop, the camera is in front. So there might be some case, some algorithm where it might not be trustworthy, and something might be recording without your consent all the time, just to get that your face in frame, so that it can unlock, it can constantly keep checking. Same for the voice part, same for everything. So it may maybe unintentionally share the information or with anyone, or it might be very sensitive. So it is a challenge. So, which of the following is a suitable reason why emotional virtual agents should support multiple language? So, first option is to limit the number of users who can interact, to increase the cost of development, to enable a wider range of users to access emotional support, to increase the workload. Very simple options. C option makes the most sense, to enable a wider range of users. Multilingual we want because it should also be able to communicate in Hindi. If I'm talking in Hindi, even Punjabi it should understand. So definitely we would. But what are the main keywords? First is accessibility. Uh, a, let's say a person is not that well educated, and they also want to use that assistant, so it's better. Second is inclusivity. You can, if there is some language which is not that widely spoken, but still, let's say Gujarati for that matter, let's say the agent is also understanding Gujarati, so it will be better, and it will make them feel more included in that product, so it becomes more favorite product. So yeah, then user experience is enhanced. Great, it's great that if it can reply in Hindi, and my parents or my relatives or some other person in some remote area who hasn't had any access to knowledge or resources, and they can also interact basically. So reach is also there, and it can impact a larger audience, different communities as well. So no brainer. See, what should an EVA base its appropriate response on? Intent and emotion, emotion and context, intent and context, a mix of intent, emotion, and context. I think three of the points are all are needed. So intent is the underlying purpose behind a user's action or query. So let's say a user says, I need help finding a nearby restaurant. That means he's hungry and he needs to go and eat outside, to and the intent is to locate a restaurant for dining. So EVA recognizes this intent and responds by providing recommendation based on user's location and preference. So this is the actually problem solving. And then emotional part comes into the picture. Let's say I'm feeling frustrated because I cannot figure out how to use this application, and it should the EVA should detect the user's frustration and respond with empathy. Okay, let me help you, don't panic, like in a more subtle way, and step by step guidance can be provided so the person is relieved and is able to use that app or troubleshoot. Then the context. So what's the weather like? It might provide a general idea, but then uh, if the user's location is known for from previous interactions, then it might provide a more personalized or tailored content to users location and weather conditions. Let's say you are asking, a person is staying in New Delhi, and you ask what is the weather today. So the agent tells you that the weather today is 30 degrees Celsius and this. And another agent which is emotionally intelligent, and it knows the context that you are staying in New Delhi, then it might tell you that, the weather is quite good today, it's almost very sunny, around 30 degrees, and it's a very good day to explore Sarojini Market. So you will feel much more included, you will feel that it is giving you a more tailor made experience. So it impacts a lot and you will feel very related to it. That's how the context matters. So it should be a mix of intent ultimately means the actual response required. ठीक है, the semantics, and emotion and context again to enhance that experience. Okay, which of the following is the best way to prevent privacy concern? Sorry, Lita?
Ma'am, can I actually ask you some, like, where is this materials coming from? Like, the slides are not uploaded on the portal as well. I thought maybe I had forgotten to study these ones. Like, where are these exactly, like, questions
Okay,
from?
so I actually create these questions myself. The previous first
Oh,
10 questions were taken from the previous year assignment questions. So my format for this year was first 10 questions mostly belong to the 2024 edition of this course from all the week assignment. Let's say today is week 11, so week 11 2024 edition. Then next 10 set of questions up to 20th, it is most likely taken from the 23 edition. So there have been two previous editions for this course, and the next questions, if we have up to 30 or so, then it is I create those questions just for your practice, and so that we cover as much content as possible because we have enough time to discuss. And these slides are not available on uh, the portal itself on the nptel, but this link must have been shared with you. I upload these slides, and this video is also being recorded, so you can find the previous lectures on youtube. um, Either you can search for effective computing lectures live sessions on youtube, and I think the playlist will be there. So go for 2025 playlist, okay, CS04 2025.
okay, ma'am.
And these
Because I
slides
was.
will be, I think there is a google drive link that must have been shared with you. If not, you can contact someone from the nptel team. I upload these content in a drive folder which is shared with you all. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, because only this is what I was looking for. There aren't actually because there are like slides uploaded. They are uploaded for something like, I guess, week till week 5 or okay, till week 4 lecture materials, and after that the slides are almost not here anywhere. There are like for downloading videos, there are for transcripts,
Okay, you're talking about
and
the official nptel page, right?
yes, the official NPTEL page that we
Uh-huh.
actually log on to.
Okay, got it. There's like a download here for 2024 sessions or video sessions or so, live sessions, something like that on the sidebar, है ना वो वाली option थी. But
हाँ जी,
this
yes,
is
ma'am.
this content. I don't know where they share the link with you guys, but I from my side I upload this and I share the slides. So you can mail them or you can mail the
Okay.
support or whatever. So, or you can also
Mm,
ask on the
okay, ma'am.
community post as well, so they might answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And one another thing that I was actually particularly wanted to ask you about why I joined this session, ma'am. Like, our exams are coming a bit soon, so like, what sort of format are we actually looking for? Like, there are going to be MCQs like this in the exam, or are there going to be something else as well? Because it's a computer-based test,
So
so those
I
tend to be typically MCQs.
Hmm. So I'm not actually a part of that exam team, but I last iteration also I was the TA for this course, and I some student asked this question, and I asked them. So they replied that mostly it is going to be in the MCQ format only, and it is going to be like same as the assignment questions, similar format. So even if it is a subjective question, it might, I'm not sure though, but I don't think any subjective answers they are expecting. Only objective questions will be there. But still, you can confirm again on the community post or so. Because
Okay, ma'am.
I'm not actually concerned with that part. This is only my job to discuss the questions and this tutorials, and I'm
Yes.
dealing with that. Okay.
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 Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So okay, which is the best way to prevent privacy concerns related to emotional virtual agents? Providing users with a generic privacy policy without mentioning the specific data uh, seems incorrect. Obtaining users consent before collecting personal data and clearly stating the purpose of the data collection. Using encryption techniques to secure the personal data collected by the agent. Selling users personal data to third party, which is absolutely wrong. So uh, privacy concerns include the um without mentioning the specific data being collected, it is very wrong at the at our part, at the one who is conducting these like the collecting the data, and it can lead to privacy concerns. And obtaining users consent before collecting personal data ensures transparency and allows user to make informed decisions about sharing their information. Now, clearly stating the purpose of data, like I want to conduct an experiment, like I want to collect your facial responses, expression responses. Let's say I'm doing something in research, or so I'm talking about emotional recognition. So if I'm collecting your visuals, then you should know that your visuals are being collected, and for what exactly. You should also mention that what is the purpose of the data collection, very very clearly, very crisp, very clearly, and fully in detail. There should be no hidden things, because it is unethical. So, using encryption techniques also helps to secure the personal data, and but this is so wrong. Like selling users' personal data to third party, it is very very wrong and unethical, and it violates the user's privacy rights. So, this was the question. Uh, Providing users with generic privacy policy without mentioning the specific data, which is incorrect. And the question is, which one is best way to prevent privacy breach or privacy concerns. So first is incorrect. Second is consent is must before collecting personal data, which is correct. And using encryption techniques, which is also recommended. Fourth is selling users data, no, never. So B is the correct answer. Okay, a virtual EVA is designed to provide emotional support to people with mental health conditions. However, it leads to negative consequences when the virtual agent is continued. What ethical concern is highlighted in this scenario? So, dependency on the virtual assistant, discrimination against certain groups, invasion of privacy, or biased emotional responses. So, the correct answer is dependency on the virtual agent, because why, earlier you are not going through a good phase and you want to talk to someone, but you are not comfortable talking to a human, so you go opt for a EVA, which is maybe a therapy EVA. Then you start venting out and you feel better. Now you have developed the habit of talking to that agent. But then let's say some reason the virtual agent is not available anymore, maybe they discontinue it, or so now you, wherever you will feel bad or you will feel anxious, now where to vent that energy, because you had developed your bubble, your comfort bubble, talking to that EVM. Now uh, you are relying on that agent that much that you cannot even talk to a person. You are very frustrated, and you cannot seem to share anything or take guidance or companionship from any other person. So it is making you less capable and willing to manage these independently or through other human interactions. So, emotional reliance can be there. So, users can become emotionally dependent on VA and turning it to for comfort and empathy or advice during difficult times. Over times, the users can rely on virtual assistants as their primary source of emotional support, and it can hinder their ability to interact with other people or seek support from human relationship. You are like, I don't need any friend, I can talk to ChatGPT. So that is the case we are talking about here, and you have discarded the human relationships and you are just focusing on the EVS. And it is unhealthy. Instead of talking to human beings, it's more of a healthy and social coping mechanisms. Then reduced self reliance, it is just making you dependent on something and you are becoming less self reliant. Basically you are becoming less self, like dependent, and instead you will always look for the VA. So problem solving skills also, it is hindering, because whenever you are facing a problem, you are asking the chat gpt, like how to solve, tell me what to do, and whatever the agent is telling you, you are doing that, and you are not using your own brain. So it is reduced self reliance. Disruption of human connections. If you're not talking to your friends or any other person for support, or even your parents, and you're tuning if you're turning to talk to some virtual assistant, then you are disrupting your social circle. You are not a part of the society anymore. You are just very much cut off from the society. You're not talking to your friends. You prioritize, you don't want to talk to people, so you have disconnected. Then withdrawal effects are also there. So let's say the just we discussed that, let's say the va is discontinued or unavailable, then you have developed a habit, and now you won't be able to solve any kind of problems. So it might cause you further problem, and it can even escalate those feelings or mental health conditions, or lead to feelings of abandonment or loneliness. So the major concern here is dependency on the virtual assistant. Next question is, virtual agents may display discrimination against certain group of people due to the possibility of their emotional responses being influenced by bias or prejudice, which is true, because we discussed about biases. So biases are basically your own point of view that you are having. Let's say you tell a system that uh, you consider that if a person is smiling only, then it is considered happy, but I know that even if I'm happy, it's not necessary that I will be smiling. So but you have trained the model in such a way that it only recognizes happiness when there is smiling involved. uh, so this is kind of a bias that you are only, you're not taking the general thing, you are just using whatever you think the best is. Okay. So in case of virtual agents, including emotionally intelligent ones, it can display discrimination against certain group of people due to various factors. Let's say bias in training data, algorithmic biases, or the designer's implicit biases. uh, let's say one algorithm favors males over females. Every time you are choosing a person, then it only prefers males over females. So there is some kind of bias involved, and these biases can ultimately penetrate the algorithms and amplify at some level as well. And let's say the training data used for emotion recognition system, the face emotion recognition, it is trained only on American people, so the model is not able to understand people from Africa or India, because we are brown skinned or tan skinned people. So the algorithm is not even able to understand the facial characteristics, because it has only seen the white people. Similarly, in case of speech, the Indian accent is different, American accent is different, British accent is different, and some Middle Eastern accent might be different. So they don't understand it if it is not trained well. It can impact the virtual agent's design or decision making processes, and it can lead to wrong outputs and discriminatory behaviors, and it can like amplify the existing uh, biases. So okay, next is, to prevent overfitting, the number of features should be balanced with the complexity of the model. So what is overfitting actually? Overfitting is basically when a ML model, if you're aware of the ML models, then you must have heard about this overfitting. So it can capture random. So what happens is, I'll give you an example. Let's say I tell an ML model that this is an apple. Okay. And we know every apple looks different, and one apple is this, and it might have some kind of spot here, but then there can be another apple which might not have the spot. Okay. Let's say this is a kind of this gray spot. So you tell that you use so many apple pictures, and you tell that tell the ML model that this is an apple. You teach it. Now if you keep on giving, if you keep on increasing the same training process, do it again, you're not satisfied. Ultimately you will reach 100% or 90% of perfect accuracy. You will be very very happy. But then, you know how ML models work. Firstly, it will learn the shape. It will learn the shape, like something is looking like this. Then another characteristic, it might learn that it has some kind of a leaf attached. If like in both pictures you can see there is some kind of leaf, but there can be another apple which is not having the leaf. Okay, so but this ML model has learnt the basic characteristics. So यहाँ तक it is fine. It is fine that this characteristic is there. But then you say no, learn more about this. So then it will start looking into the unnecessary features. This is necessary feature, the shape, the texture, the color. ठीक है, so it can also learn that it is red in color. ठीक है, so these are good characteristic, good observations. But then you tell the system, no, I still want you to learn more. ठीक है, and you're feeding the same data again and again. Now what will it look for? There are no other characteristics, so it will start looking the unnecessary detail. So unnecessary detail will be this gray spot, this uh, this gray spot. So it will say, if there is a fruit which looks like this, has a leaf, has red color, and it has a spot like this, then it is apple. If it, the spot is not there, it is not considered an apple, which is not true. Every apple can be different. So now I think you will be able to understand more. Also it won't be able to generalize well. So overfitting means, how can we detect overfitting? That on training the accuracy is very very high, and test accuracy is very low. So no generalization. Okay, so let's just read this out once. When an ML model learns to capture noise or random fluctuations in the training data rather than the underlying patterns or the relationships. And one way to prevent overfitting is ensuring a balance between number of features and its complexity. So if there are too many features relative to the amount of data available, it can become overly complex and prone to overfitting. So the best method to train a model without overfitting is increase the training data. In this case there were only two examples were there, and then it started noticing the unnecessary features. But let's say I have 10,000 images of apples, so it will automatically learn the more abstract features rather than the specific features. So that is how we can counter the overfitting. And if the model is too simple or lacks sufficient features to capture the underlying pattern, it can underfit and fail to generalize well. So underfitting is you're not providing enough information to learn. Okay, this balance can be achieved by some techniques, let's say feature selection, dimensionality reduction, regularization, and so on. So there should be a balance. The speech emotion detection and VA components should be able to work in real time or even close to real time, which is true, because if we are talking to Alexa, we are talking to Siri, it should respond in the real time. Real time means immediately. Okay, as soon as I give the input, it should not take like too much time to process. It should be very quick inference, and it should know how it should respond quickly. And the so basically it should generate responses quickly enough to maintain a natural and seamless interaction with the user. Let's say I'm asking you a question and you're replying after 5 minutes, then you lose interest in the conversation, right? But we don't want it in the case of any kind of agent. It should respond within the very less time frame or time window. Prompt response is desired, Natural interaction, how is it going to be natural? Because you're replying in real time. Respond swiftly, mimicking the real time nature of human communication. And if you're talking to a VA and if it is delaying a lot, then you might feel disconnected or awkward or disjointed. And again, prompt response is basically, prompt means fast or quick, so it should analyze the incoming speech data, detect emotions, generate appropriate responses without significant delay. Enhanced user experience, of course it is fast, then I would be very interested in the conversation and it is engaging. Adaptability, and it helps the system to adapt to changes in the user's emotional state or input context on the fly. Example, if a user's emotional state suddenly shifts during a conversation, then the system can quickly adjust its responses to accommodate the change, providing appropriate support or guidance. The speech emotion detection and VA component should be able to work in real time or close to real time, which is correct statement. Then next question is, an emotional VPA is powered by machine learning that has been trained on South Indian languages and dialects, would be able to translate well for North Indian users. Do you think it is true or not? I think it is false, because it is ultimately trained on the South Indian languages, which are Dravidian languages, right? And they are different from what we speak in North. So language differences is there, and they are very distinct from North Indian dialects and languages. Let's say we are talking about Tamil. Tamil is very different from Hindi. So if we talk about Gujarati is somewhat similar. So you can guess what the other person is speaking. Even Rajasthani, Marwadi, you can still sense what the conversation is happening about, because it is the Devanagari script and mostly very similar to each other. And but in case of South Indian languages, they are quite different. So there can be differences in vocabulary, grammar, significant differences in pronunciation, syntax, and other expressions. Even within North India, there are so many regional dialects and everything. So if we train only on a subset and then we want it will generalize well, that is not going to happen. So cultural context is also there. Accuracy will be declined, and we need to incorporate the training data, the North Indian language data into the training context as well, if we want to achieve good performance and good accuracy. So this is a false statement. Then, which of the following is true about a virtual VPA? It should protect both personal and emotional information. It should protect personal information but not emotional information. A very trivial question. It should, of course, it should protect both personal and emotional information. So, personal information, it may include your name, your home address, your location, uh, even your voice, okay? And because let's say it is recording, and now there are so many cloning systems available, it can misuse your voice samples to generate something that you've never said, which is the deepfake concept, right? So user privacy is very important. Sorry for this. It is very important, and it should be kept confidential. Then there's sensitive emotional data. Let's say I suffer from some kind of mental health issue. I suffer from a lot of anxiety. I don't want to share with anyone that I suffer from anxiety. So, but if my virtual assistant is leaking the data that this person is having regular mood swings or uh, other sorts, some kind of disorder is happening. So, and about my therapy sessions going on, which I don't want to share with anyone, suppose, It is my sensitive emotional data and it should also be preserved. Why do we need? Because we want, if the VPN is like it, if the company wants to be trustworthy and hold on to more customers or consumers, then trust and confidence should be built, and it is built when you feel that your data is safe. So privacy also deals with compliance with regulations, because there are so many regulations and regulatory bodies which take care of the rights of the people involved, of the consumers, and it should prevent misuse and abuse of those this data. Ethical considerations should always be taken care of. Then, which of the following component is usually not associated with virtual assistants? Dialogue management system, emotion sensing module, human activity detection module, and ASR, which is the automatic speech recognition. So VA or virtual assistant, or let's say Alexa and Siri, which of which of these components do you think that it is not usually associated? So first is dialogue management. um, Dialogue management is responsible for managing the conversation flow between the user and virtual assistant. Let's say the management system deals with when to pause and when to talk. So it will listen to you when you will stop, then it will sense that it is my turn to respond, then it will respond accordingly, and based on your input, your context, your system capabilities, then it might generate the response. So it is responsible for these generating or determining appropriate responses, managing the conversation flow and VAs. Then comes the emotion sensing module, which is present in the emotionally intelligent VPS or VAs, and they are usually equipped with emotion sensing capabilities, which can detect the user's emotional state, then process it, and then it can pass on the information to the dialogue management system to generate a suitable response. And it can be empathetic, it can be like parallel empathy or reactive empathy. If you have attended the last lecture, we discussed about something about the parallel empathy or reactive. So just in case you're sounding much more happy, so the ideal response will be to behave in the same way, that if I'm laughing, then the VA should also be like happy, respond in a happy or joyous tone. But if I am sad, then the VA should not be sad, it should comfort me. So there is a counter emotion going on, which is the reactive method. Earlier we talked about the parallel empathy, now this is the reactive empathy. So depends on how the emotion, the samne wala person, how is it feel, how is the person feeling, and then based on that emotion which is detected, you decide whether you are going to go with parallel empathy or reactive empathy, or how you're going to reply and give more personalized and empathetic responses. Then comes the ASR module. ASR basically means automatic speech recognition, which is the capability of machines to convert the speech to text. ठीक है, spoken language to text. So it enables to understand, generate the transcripts. Ultimately everything is being processed. So the model also generates the transcript of whatever I have said. It will store, it will pass on to some model, and it will generate the appropriate response, then it will be converted to the speech again. So that is how it works. But in case of human activity detection module, it is not typically associated with virtual assistants. Human activity detection means that you're running, you're standing, you're sitting, or what kind of activity you are doing, which is not their concern. And while VAs might interact with users in various contexts and environment, usually this HAD module is not there. And it's more like I am telling you to I'm asking you, let's say, how is the weather today? So you are responding to my query, and you are not looking at what I am doing, my like daily activity or human activity beyond the scope of this interaction. So HAD is not present. Okay. Okay. Select the correct sequence with respect to end-to-end life cycle of a virtual assistant system. How to develop a system like Alexa. So first option in every option is prepare data. So yes, first of all we did prepare the data. But then what are these: model, monitor, retrain, deploy, and register? So let's see. First, first point is to prepare data. First step is to prepare data. This involves collection, pre-processing, and preparing the data required for training the VA model. Okay? Data preparation is a crucial step, and it is the most, like, the quality of your model will depend on the quality of data that you're using. Okay, the relevance and the quality of the training data. Second is the model. In this step, the VA is trained using the prepared data. It is the training process that is happening. It involves understanding user inputs, processing them, generate appropriate responses. Training involves optimization of the model parameters using some kind of ML or DL algorithms to train the model. Third is to register. Register means that once we have the model developed, and now what we want to do, it needs to be registered in a model registry or repository. Let's say I developed something and I am not now storing it at some GitHub. So I'll just write some major points. Let's say collection and cleaning of data. Then it is ML, AI, deep learning, whatever you can want to call. So training using these models. Now uh, let's say you are storing everything on GitHub, and so that you can track the different versions or so. So tracking different versions of the model, associated metadata. Then deployment means actually like making a product out of it. Okay, so product or making it live. Let's say you developed an app and you now pushed it on App Store. Okay, and okay, so integrating the model into VPA infrastructure and making it accessible to the users. So आपने इस एलेक्सा वाले डब्बे में डाल दिया उसको, मॉडल को. सो दिस इज एलेक्सा, यू हैव पुट इन दिस. सो एलेक्सा में इंटीग्रेशन हो गई. देन next step is to monitor means once it is deployed, now you also want to receive the feedback. Monitor the accuracy or the detecting anomalies or issues, tracking key matrices, then responding them to promptly maintain the system functionality and to ensure smooth operation and performance. So also you get some kind of feedback at this step. After getting the feedback, you know where the system lacks, right? So you might want to retrain it. So new data becomes available over time. New data becomes available, or even if our system is uh, actually, here we can also say that there kind of bugs are there or issues. Okay, so then we retrain it, and the model may be retrained to adapt or improve its performance. Also update with new features, bug fixes, Okay, and so on. So that is how this uh, retraining is happening. So yeah, this is the prepare data, then we model it, that means the AI/ML model. Then register means to store it in a GitHub repo. Deploy means to use the model as is, like actually make it publicly available and actually make it live. Monitor means to obtain the feedback, to check whether the system is working fine or any improvements are there needed to take care of, any bugs are there, or then you, once you obtain all the feedback and you take it, you have the new data, you have some new purposes, you retrain the model, and then further it goes to deployment. And also again, same pipeline actually is followed. So, which of the following is not a dataset for emotional speech recognition? Is it EmoDB, RavDes, LibriSpeech, or IIT KGP CESESC? So, speech datasets include EmoDB. Emo, as the name suggests, it has some kind of emotional component. EmoDB is the emotional database, and it is well-known, freely available dataset for emotional speech analysis, and it contains recordings of acted emotional speech in German. It was created at Berlin, Germany, and 10 speakers, 5 males, 5 females, are present and participated in the data recording. And there are 7 classes: anger, boredom, anxiety, happiness, sadness, and neutral. So it is more of a controlled laboratory setting data set. Then the other dataset is called RAVDES, which is Ryerson Audio Visual Database of Emotional Speech and Song. So it is both audio visual and it has speech as well as music. So it is another popular dataset for emotional speech recognition. It consists of speech and song recordings with different expressions. So calm, happy, sad, fearful, surprise, and disgust. And the songs have different categories. Also, each expression is produced at two levels, so intensity is also there now, normal or strong, with additional neutral expressions. Okay, all conditions are available in three modality: audio only, video only, or video or audio video visual. So the third dataset is called LibriSpeech, which is widely used in speech analysis, but it is not for emotional speech. It is mostly used for ASR system, because um, it is audiobook based data set. So basically audio recording of read English speech from public domain audiobooks. So one person is there, they are just reading a, let's say, storybook. The fox jumped over the box. So it is just a read speech, but it has the corresponding transcript. Okay, and it is a corpus of approximately like 1,000 hours of these are certain details about the dataset, and it is derived from the audiobooks from the LibriVox project. And then the fourth dataset is IIT KGP SESC dataset, which is the speech emotion corpus, and it is curated for Indian languages as well. So Telugu language is there. Professional artists from All India Radio were there from Vijayawada, India, and it is collected by simulating 8 different emotions using the neutral statements. So the text itself is neutral, but then it is spoken in different emotional tones. So Libri speech is the one which is not used for this emotion speech. It is usually used for ASR. Okay, what does a model registry allow for in the deployment of ML models? So, real time processing and response, or tracking different versions, model training and optimization, and data encryption and privacy compliance. So, machine learning model registry, basically we just discussed that registering a model, that means we are, register means to write somewhere or to note it down somewhere, okay? And if you are saving the information or making a documentation about your model or saving it somewhere, dumping it somewhere, it is helping you to locate to track different versions. Let's say firstly you develop some EVA, some virtual. So Alexa had version 1, let's say, then version 2, version 3. Now, is it the case that once version 2 comes, the previous version is inaccessible? No, they will store it. They have, let's say on GitHub, the code is stored somewhere. Then you make some improvement, you again register it. Then you make some improvement, you again. Let's say you do some versioning 3 and it does not work out and you want to go back to version 2. Then how are you going to make the rollback? Because you have already saved a copy of whatever the system looked like when it was version 2, and you have the code, the everything saved on GitHub, let's say, or some other platforms might be there. So it is a more like a centralized repository for storing and managing different versions of ML models, and allows to track, manage and compare various iterations. Let's say GPT-3, GPT 3.5, every now and then the new model is being released. So what about the previous models? They are still also available. And then it enables versioning, ठीक है, and every version has its own metadata, like what kind of characteristics. Then version 2 is coming, it will also have a file which tells you what new additional features are available. Then comparison and evaluation, you can compare different models, different versions. Then collaboration, if I am working on one module and my friend is working on another module, we both can dump the code into a central repository. ठीक है. Reproducibility, mostly as CS students, what we do is we download the code from certain GitHub repository and then we want to run it as maybe baseline or for your research purpose, or you want to use some other person's code, then you just copy it and clone it and so on. You can use very easily. So it is also good for reproducing the results, because let's say I design a model, I say I use transformer block. Now it can be very ambiguous, what kind of transformer block, how many layers, what is the dimension. But if you provide the documentation and the model, then I can take your exact architecture and then I can replicate the results more accurately. Deployment management, like seamless deployment of the model, and pipelines can be integrated and so on. Auditing and compliance, check कर सकते हैं, evaluate कर सकते हैं. Performance monitoring, it helps to monitor the performance in real time, and KPIs and so on can also be used. So yeah, it helps in tracking different levels of the different versions of the model. Which, what is the one of the challenges associated with multi-language support in intelligent virtual assistant, which is a challenge? Bias and discrimination, limited available of emotional data, consistency in emotional expressions across cultures, operational requirements for real-time processing. There might be multiple challenges here, but we want to choose the best option, which seems to be the best option. So multilingual means it supports many languages, and the main issue is that bias and discrimination can be eliminated. Let's say if you include the data from different countries, different ethnicities, gender, whatever bias is there, you want to remove the bias, you will add new data and it will help. Second is limited availability of emotional data. So availability of emotional data can be countered by acquiring more data. I know it seems very like casually I'm saying it to uh, collect more data, but it is still doable, right? Third is the consistency in emotional expressions across cultures. So this statement is actually incorrect. There is no consistency in emotional expressions. What is fine, what is considered legal or socially acceptable in India might not be socially acceptable in Western cultures, and vice versa. They have their own set of rules and thinking thought process, but in Indian society it might vary. So it is actually inconsistency. And D is operational requirements for real time, definitely can be managed if you use more high end GPUs or so. But the best option for me is the consistency in emotional expressions across cultures. So it can, the reason is that emotions can be expressed differently based on culture norms, beliefs, social contexts, even the gender. Men are usually not that expressive, but women are more expressive. So if a virtual assistant that supports multiple language, it should be able to understand and interpret emotions accurately across diverse cultural backgrounds. ठीक है. uh, this requires careful consideration of cultural nuances and adaptations of the emotional recognition, and to ensure that the VA's interaction are culturally appropriate and effective. Let's say, while in some culture people might express happiness through laughter and smiling, in other it might be conveyed through subtle facial expressions or gestures. If you are laughing loudly, it might be considered rude in some cultures, but in your culture it's appropriate. So there are so many differences. And additionally, the way happiness is communicated verbally can also vary across cultures, with some languages having specific phrases or idioms to express joy. Then, for example, imagine a virtual assistant, and to ensure its consistency, the virtual assistant needs to be trained on a diverse data set, and it encounters a user expressing happiness, but in a more subdued manner, such as through a slight smile or soft tone. It should still be able to accurately interpret that the person is happy and even respond accordingly, even if the expression is different from what is like normally the big smile on your face. So actually, there is no consistency. There is no consistency uh, in expressions across different cultures. Okay, next question is, how can cultural diversity impact the effectiveness of emotionally intelligent virtual agents? So it ensures uniformity and consistency in user experiences. It enables adaptation to different cultural norms and preferences, leads to bias and discrimination. It restricts access to emotional support. The question is very like straightforward. So how can cultural diversity impact the effectiveness? Because it does not ensure uniformity and consistency, because different cultures are actually very different to incorporate all in one system. So again, the same thing we just covered this, we want to align with different norms, values and preferences of diverse user population, right? So more personalized and culturally sensitive emotional support should be there. And uh, how can cultural diversity impact the effectiveness? I think the options are a bit uh, off. I think this is definitely incorrect, right? It does not restrict. It leads to bias and discrimination also. No. It enables adaptation. Okay, cultural diversity, yes, this is correct, but it ensures uniformity and consistency. This is also incorrect, because in uniformity and consistency नहीं आती है, उससे inconsistency आती है when there are multiple cultures involved. But we want to ensure that it happens. It's not that it is causing it. uh, but it enables, so slightly uh, ambiguous options, but then let's go with B only. Okay. How does emotional manipulation pose an ethical challenge in the context of EVS? So, emotional manipulation we discussed. You were not, I think you guys were not there in the beginning of this lecture. So, emotional manipulation, what it means is, if you're talking to Alexa, if you're talking to Siri, any virtual assistant, any robot, and you're sad or you're stressed, so it, let's say, uh, you talk to Alexa, I'm very sad today, what should I do? So Alexa will say, read a book, and you will say, oh, good idea. So then Alexa will say, there is a very nice book from this author, particular author from uh, Jacob, some Mr. Jacob, you should read this book out, and here's the link for this book, and you should consider purchasing this book. Now, when this business aspect is coming, it is actually manipulating your thought process. You know that, so let's say Atomic Habits, okay? It is a great book to make habits, or if you want to self awareness and so on, self help, you can say. So it can suggest you that book, okay, you should, you know what, you should buy this book, and it is very good. So now I will be manipulated by Alexa to buy that book, and if I get to know that the author has tied up with Amazon or Alexa, that you have to recommend my book every time a person is feeling sad and you're providing some kind of support, you mention my book, and it will give me publicity, and it will increase my sales. Ultimately, in the back end, it is unethical because you're manipulating the feelings of other person. Okay, so it is influencing me to buy in some a product which is otherwise I wouldn't consider buying. Okay, so how does emotional manipulation pose an ethical challenge? Enhances user experience and engagement? No. It may influence others emotion without their knowledge or consent? True. It fosters emotional well-being? No. And it increases user dependency and reliance? No, it is not. This It is a different challenge, but it's not related to emotional manipulation. So I've already, I think, discussed this, and the main issue is the lack of transparency and control over the emotional experiences. And then we don't want to trust the technology. Like, if it is actually giving you a good suggestion, you won't consider it from the next time, because you might think that this is a business propaganda going on. Yeah. So another example, if the user expresses concerns about feeling overwhelmed by work, then the VA might emphasize the importance of taking breaks and engaging in some activities suggested by the application sponsor or advertisers, right? And it might, the intention might be to help the user, but then it can lead the user to adopt behaviors or beliefs that serve the interest of the developers or other stakeholders. So unknowingly you are getting influenced without users explicit consent or awareness. I did not ask for the game, but it is telling me to use that or play that game. Okay, so it is a legal, dash is a legal concern associated with EVAs. Social isolation, unintended consequences, liability and accountability, and privacy. So legal is basically liability and accountability, because let's say a financial institution is there, and it integrates, let's say bank, it integrates a EVA into mobile banking application to provide personalized financial advice and investment recommendations to users based on how much money I have in my account and so on, other factors. Now it will analyze my data, and let's say it is convincing me to put my money in an FD, but then I realized that it was a trick, or it is not working out for me. So now who will be responsible for that? Or even if it tells me to invest money in a specific share market portfolio, then I might invest it, and then I might have a loss. So who is responsible? Do you think the virtual assistant is responsible, or what? So if EVA provides inaccurate or biased financial advice that leads to investment losses or financial harms, then the financial institution could be held liable for the outcomes. And if the EVA fails to account for changes in market, provides recommend based on flawed assumptions, users may experience negative financial consequences. Let's say it is not updated and it is still using the data from 2018 or 20. During that time COVID was there and market was completely different, so it is still using the outdated information and it is not using the latest data. So at that time what was considered good or bad, it might be not, it might be different nowadays. So you might face losses. And the financial institution may face legal and regulatory scrutiny, as well as potential lawsuits from the user seeking compensation for their losses. And reputation loss and so on is also of course there. Okay, anthropomorphism may lead to deception. Deception means dhokha, and anthropomorphism we discussed in previous few lectures that it is to make a human or a virtual assistant. It is to make a virtual assistant as humane as possible, like closer to human. If you design a, like let's say Alexa, like a dabba like this, so it's not that relatable, it's just a piece of technology speaker lying on my in my living room. But if somebody is designing like Alexa, like imagine Alexa like this, so it will be more interesting to talk to and it will feel like a more relatable entity. So it this process involves attributing human-like qualities or characteristics to non-human entities, so, such as machines or animals. So when applied to EVS, and anthropomorphism may lead user to perceive that the virtual agent is possessing human-like emotions. If you consider Sophia, the robot, it looks exactly like a human being, okay, and it if it is showing you some kind of emotion, and if you say, oh Sophia, I'm so sad today, and then say, no, it's everything will be fine, then you will think that the robot is actually feeling that emotion and it is able to understand, but it is not feeling that emotion because ultimately it is a machine. But for those people who are not so much into the technology, they might not realize that it is only rule based thing or the deep learning thing which is happening, which is uh, causing this emotional response. So in reality it is simply following some predefined algorithms or patterns or so. So anthropomorphism might lead to deception, and it might make you think that the robot or the virtual assistant is actually feeling those emotions while they are just using some algorithm. uh, I think we can skip this. Mostly it is just saying that it uses only pre-programmed and algorithmic responses, and it is not able to understand or have any emotional capacity, so it can lead to deception. Identify the ethical concern associated. A healthcare organization integrates an emotional virtual therapist into a mental health support service, okay? And a virtual therapist provides inaccurate or harmful advice, leading to the adverse outcomes or uh, exacerbating, I don't know how to pronounce it, mental health conditions. I mean, to escalate, right? So, which ethical concern is associated? Bias and discrimination? I don't see any kind of bias and discrimination here. Liability and accountability, deceptive practices, or data protection. So, so definitely this is more of a liability and accountability issue, because if the agent is giving you some wrong advice, who is responsible for that? If the person who was already dealing with some mental health issue, they took your advice from the robot or the V or the chatbot, it made their condition even worse. Who is going to be responsible for that? That is the main issue here. So it can lead to some legal ramifications. uh, so the developers or the operators of the EVA could be held liable for this resulting harm to the user. So you can file a lawsuit or so, like this is not working fine. For instance, consider a scenario where an EVA is deployed in a healthcare setting. Now, in the case of healthcare or mental health care, this is a very sensitive area. If any other application area is there, I can understand some mistakes are tolerable, but in case of health or any sensitive area like that, we cannot compromise. So it provides support to patients with mental health conditions, and it fails to accurately assess a patient's emotional state or provides inappropriate advice that leads to harm. The developers and operators of the virtual assistant could face legal repercussions. Then patients may hold them accountable for any negative outcomes resulting from various virtual assistants and actions or advice, leading to potential lawsuits or claims for damages. So, demonstrating negligence or failure to meet duty of care obligations could result in significant legal liabilities for the developers, operators of the EVS. Then, okay, what is the ethical concern? An e-commerce app is there, and it analyzes users' state based on their browsing history and interactions. If it is detecting frustration or impatience, it may subtly influence by displaying persuasive messages or offers to encourage immediate purchases, emotionally, like potentially exploiting vulnerable emotional states for commercial gain. Let's say you're looking for a phone cover and it is not, you're not finding it, and specific brand has it. Then the Amazon app is showing you, or some e-commerce app is showing you that, see, this is there, this is there. Yeah, the ads are coming up on your screen based on it has already sensed that you're frustrated. So this is a case of, you cannot call it a financial fraud, but this is manipulation, because it is displaying this particular content which you might at this moment might be looking for. You, it knows that you are very vulnerable right now and you are in need of that mobile cover, and it is displaying that cover, advertising the same on your screen, because you, it knows that you will buy it. So it can lead to some impulsive or uninformed purchasing decisions, potentially leading to a buyer's remorse or financial strain. Well, I was not planning to buy that expensive, but now I don't have any option, and you showed me the ad again and again, and now my mind has changed. So it can lead to a sense of manipulation or exploitation. Okay, so emotional manipulation, what is exactly is, to formally define it, involves intentionally influencing or altering a individual's emotions for a particular purpose. Let's say mostly it is without their explicit knowledge or consent, and it is mostly for some financial gain or publicity or so. So it can encourage immediate purchases, sense frustration or impatience, and it might aim to increase the sales or commercial gain for the e-commerce app. So emotional manipulation is there. Okay, an elderly individual living alone becomes emotionally attached to a virtual companion robot, spending most of their time interacting with the robot. And as a result, individual gradually withdraws from the social interactions with family and friends. Privacy invasion is not there in this particular situation. Bias is not there. Liability is not there. It leads to social isolation because the elderly person does not want to contact any other human, but instead it is trying to, the habit is developed to interact with the robot. So it has led to the social isolation because the person is not in contact with other friends, families, it became more dependent on the virtual assistant. So the correct answer would be social isolation. Okay, the a mental health support chatbot collects information about users' emotion, behavior, psychological concerns. What potential ethical concern can arise in this scenario? Social image, privacy, discrimination, dependency. So, in this particular situation, mental health support EV or chatbot, it is collecting the information, right? So, it can reveal the pattern. Let's say a person who is dealing with a lot of stress, lot of anxiety, uh, some other traumatic things are happening, but the person does not want to reveal. But somehow, if the this chatbot is collecting the data, there is a high chance that it might leak the data unintentionally or intentionally. So privacy is the major concern here. Other concerns are social image is not a main concern, privacy is there. Discrimination is not in picture here, and dependency is also not there. So privacy is the correct answer. So, yeah, this brings us to the end of this session, and I hope you enjoyed the session. Next session, and it will be the last session on 15th April 2025. Also, uh, we are also having another session on same 15th April in the morning, 11 a.m. 2 hour session will be there. I will be summarizing the whole syllabus so that you will be able to get an overview of what we learned during this course. So it will be a 2 hour summary session on 15th. So I'll just write it down. I hope you will attend that session. Summary session on 15th April. I think you will get a email about it. Most likely the timings will be this. And in this session I will be covering all weeks, like week up to week 12 content, uh, to make sure that we cover we get an overview of the course. Because after that, I think after 15th April there will be no session, and exams are from, I think, 20th April. So it will be a good session to attend, and I will encourage you all to attend the session. So thank you so much for joining today, and I hope this session was useful for you. So I'm going to end the session now. You're welcome, Shikha. Thanks for joining.